Good evening. This is a meeting of the Hampden Selectboard and Board of Health being held in the Townhouse Auditorium, December 9th, 2024. This meeting is being conducted in person and remotely using video conferencing technology. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is anyone recording the meeting other than ourselves?
It would be Kristen.
Kristen Rivers from the Wilbraham Hampden Times. Good evening, Kristen. The first item on our agenda is we have some minutes, October 24th, 2024. We talked about Thornton Burgess schools and ownership, and yeah, well, that took a lot of time. And then we talked about building use policy and electronic voting. Oh, that's just before the town meeting.
Motion to approve.
Huh?
Motion to approve.
Which one are we doing?
October 24th.
Not before the town meeting. Second.
All in favor? Aye, okay. This is November 4th minutes. Let's see, we talked a little bit about the brush fires. It was dry then, it's wet now. Special town meeting, talking about the special town meeting. The town moderator was in to discuss plans for that. With the building use requests again and some selectmen reports.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is our State of the Union and kind of budget kickoff. We just finished one town meeting and here we are planning for another one, which is really only 5 months and a few days away. And I want to make a couple of comments. First of all, the moderator is considering implementing some changes in the procedure so we can kind of speed things up to have a consent agenda and for routine items and for foregoing his reading of the article and just going straight to the motions, and we'll try to implement electronic voting again. I expect that this town meeting, the annual town meeting, is going to be a large turnout, similar to the recent fall town meeting. And it's driven, I think it's going to be driven by, as expected, there'll be some large expenditure articles for municipal buildings on the warrant. And as part of that, as many of you know, we've been having we just opened up a discussion with advisory and department heads and others about how we can prioritize those municipal expenses and come up with a coherent plan to move forward in the future. I think there'll be some zoning, there'll be some voting things, some citizens petitions, and I believe the regional will have amendments to offer for the regional agreement. The select board is going to once again arrange for childcare and enhanced audio and video. I thought it worked pretty well the last time, and the electronic voting. I think starting off this evening, looking at our operations budget, we're gonna see increases in dispatch funding. That grant, that 5-year grant, the first 3 years, the state picked up everything. The second year, they picked up 50%. I mean, the fourth year, they picked up 50%. And the fifth year, which is the last year, they're picking up 25%. So we're gonna probably have a $30,000 increase in that. We have to anticipate increased spending for insurance for cost of buildings, because once we take over, Thornton Burgess will have insurance for that building and other maintenance and other things for that building. As always, an anticipated increase in employee benefits, health insurance and everything.
County retirement.
And county retirement, increase in the county retirement. We have some contracted, some collective bargaining agreements that'll have some increases in them. And then we'll have increased costs for fuel and lighting and maintenance at Thornton Burgess. So then, of course, there's a special warrant articles I mentioned. Later this evening, the select board is going to discuss setting dates for opening and closing of the warrant and the budget deadlines, as well as procedures for filing citizens petitions. And our goals there are threefold. We want to provide a clear procedure with firm deadlines for citizens petitions so we don't run into what we've done the last couple of times. We want to give the advisory committee and the planning board, if they have to hold hearings, plenty of time to get the hearings done before the town meeting. And we want to get as much warrant and budget information out to the hands of the taxpayers early enough so they can have a good view, be informed for the advisory committee and the town meeting and in planning on hearings. So with that said, we'll begin. So I guess what we'd like to see is kind of first 6 months of this fiscal year, where you are, what do you see as the challenges for the next 6 months when you need to. And if you don't mind, I'll call in the superintendent of schools first because he was kind enough to come over. Yes.
So typically, I think that's a good plan, but typically this is also looking ahead to FY '26 as well.
Right, right.
So if they could touch on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, so the first 6 months,
Grab a microphone.
Wait, and introduce themselves.
Oh, yeah. Introduce yourself, John, please.
Yeah, just in case. Just in case two people don't know you or.
I'm not sure how to turn it on.
Top button slides.
No.
And green.
Is that it?
There you go.
So John Provost, Superintendent of Schools, responding to your prompts. The first 6 months, things have been trending positively for us financially. I would say probably the main hiccup that we ran into during that time period was the resignation of our Associate Superintendent for Finance and Operations. We successfully concluded our search for a successor, and that person is in a transition period right now, working with our interim business manager. He will be taking over officially full-time in January. Looking at the next 6 months, I think that the current fiscal year looks like it's in good shape. I would just say for FY '26, we have greater uncertainty than we do in a lot of years because we have contract negotiations going on, and so that will have some impacts.
Person? John? Can I ask you about the solar?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So we did have a situation a couple of weeks ago where the solar array on Minnetonka Regional stopped functioning. They were able to determine it was a power inverter that had failed. That system, I hate to bring up bad memories, but similar to other systems, was original to the building, and the company that built the equipment is no longer in existence. However, our staff was able to source a part that was on a surplus shelf somewhere and get it installed. So within approximately 2.5 weeks, they were able to restore functioning of that array, and it's now putting out electricity to the grid again.
Do you see any capital things coming down the line for next budget?
I do. We actually are meeting Wednesday with the Budget Finance Subcommittee specifically to talk about capital costs. Some of the things that are on the list are deferred items that have been on the list before. We do have requests for generators at buildings that don't have generators. That's mainly just to protect the buildings. You may have heard recently in a nearby district, they had 2 buildings lose their heating capacity. And so, we are in a similar situation. If we were ever to lose electricity, we would be in potentially a situation of, being unable to heat the buildings, and that's a potential danger. We do have some other items that are related to safety. But I think that I can say with respect to Green Meadows, which is the school that I would imagine you'd have the most interest in this group, they probably have the fewest capital needs at this time. We do have some minor things that we're looking to do with parking lot, et cetera, but nothing major for Green Meadows.
About the buses?
The buses have not seen any improvement. We have reached out, as you know, to the state for assistance. Anne-Marie Stronach, who is senior associate commissioner, basically has a expertise in operations, has been dispatched to the LVPEC to help with that. I really think that the situation is one of sort of shifting our strategy from trying to increase recruiting to reducing the number of buses we're running, because I'm not sure that the recruiting is ever going to come through. So at the next school committee meeting, we'll actually be talking about a three-tier transportation system. Essentially, if you have each of the buses going out and making 3 runs instead of 2 runs, you reduce the number of buses that you need. So hopefully we can bring down the number of vehicles we're running to match the current workforce, rather than trying to increase the workforce to fill the current model, which I just don't know is going to be realistic.
Will there be any calculations to longevity of a bus ride for a student?
I'm asking the executive director to provide a full view of what the impacts would be in terms of what potential start and end times of schools would be, what bus rides would be, and most importantly, the financial impact. You know, I would expect that we would realize a savings if we're reducing the number of buses that are running, which might help with some of the financial situations that I just alluded to for the next fiscal year.
Brian and I took a tour of Green Meadows last year, and there were a couple of capital needs that were brought forth that had things to do, you know, basically a safety impact. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it did seem to make good sense to get done. Is that something, you did mention that Green Meadows you felt was at the bottom of the list in terms of hardware upgrades, if you will, but doesn't mean that it doesn't need attention.
Correct.
Are these things that you think you would be bringing forward for the town to consider?
When I look at capital requests, I think that safety needs are number one. Probably the second things are things that could lead to bigger issues, like the inability to heat your buildings and potential freezing. There are a couple of safety improvements that could be made at Green Meadows and could potentially be on the list, but I'm not certain whether those would be for this year or for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Or say next fiscal year or the year after that.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, something like that would be only on the town.
Correct.
So it seems like that would be kind of a call for us. So I think a presentation, look, these are the costs. We're not saying they have to be done this year, but I think it's the board's decision whether or not to see if we fit it into our budget. So I think knowing earlier rather than later, you know, are you guys willing to pay that? That's on us, so.
So we could have a similar type of meeting to the one that we have scheduled for Wednesday with Wilbraham here, either with you or with advisory, depending on how you'd like to direct us.
Okay, and the meeting Wednesday is that finance advisory, and that's strictly with Wilbraham? I thought there was more of a general meeting with advisory as well.
We will have some reps from advisory there, but if you wanted to have a discussion just about Green Meadows, I don't know whether you would want to have that here, or you'd rather have me work through advisory, or just do it through the context of that meeting that's coming up.
I'm sure Brian can set something up.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
You can go home now, we can talk about you when you're gone.
Okay. I'll be on tape.
An overview from Doug, maybe, because he's going to talk
Yep.
about the schedule coming out, you know, and,
Doug,
Yeah.
want to give us an overview on the schedule? If you have one?
I know your clerical staff has been on it, you know,
For weeks.
yeah.
Hold on, I'm waiting for the green light. Okay, I put the green light, let's go. You know, I don't have a schedule put together yet. It seems like we just finished the budget process. I'm driving over here, thinking, we're starting again. But I will put together a schedule similar to the previous years with some suggested dates. Those dates will have some flexibility, obviously, so if they don't work for people for whatever reason, just let us know. To work with people as best we can. I will be asking Lauren to add that to her master distribution list. In addition to the schedule, I'll put together the bullet points, which are similar to the previous years. We're going to be asking for level service. Level service being the same level of service currently being provided in terms of hours is the primary measure of the service. If there's any deviation from that, please make a note, and that'll be in the budget sheet, so we can know where it came from and what to be looking for. If there are any variances, any increases or decreases in hours, please make a note of that as well, so that we know why. We also ask that people note any capital or anticipated capital, whether they be in the coming year or foreseeable future. We like to have an early warning system in the event that there are major expenses coming in the next couple of years, so that we can back those into the discussions. We're going to ask that the salary lines be kept at the current rate rather than put in a placeholder. We haven't had any discussions, advisories had no discussions, and obviously we've had no discussions with either the accountant or the treasurer or the select board as to what a COLA should look like. So rather than put in a placeholder and generate numbers which end up just leading to confusion when we actually get to the real adjustments, please just carry the current salary forward at the current rate with the understanding that everybody's doing that, and those will be adjusted prior to the recommendation for the final budget. That's all I had, unless anybody has any questions.
Doug, can you clear on the salaries, if there's a contracted agreement, like, collective bargaining, should they put that number in or the old number?
Contracted, yes. If it's a known figure,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
But if it's a contract which is in negotiation, just keep the current salary until we have it sold.
Okay.
Anything further?
Thank you. Parks and Rec, we'll go this way. Parks and Rec.
Sure. Yeah, so our current budget situation, we're in great shape. We look like we're going to be either below or at the budget line come June. We don't have any big capital expenditures coming between now and the end of fiscal 24. Is that where we are, or fiscal 25?
25.
So things are looking good there. The things that we're going to be looking at going forward the following fiscal year will be, we have to iron out what we need for maintenance over at TWB should we make the move over there. There's going to be mowing, extra mowing that we have to do. So we may see an increase in service level for some of our maintenance staff. So that's going to be one of the hurdles that we have to discuss and figure out, what you're going to need for hours for, we also may need equipment for mowers and such to mow backfields. So as for sporting events. So those are our big costs coming up. We have a couple capital projects that we've been talking about. Probably for next year would be some shade structures at the splash pad, like the mesh umbrellas to provide some shade for the people in town. And also possibly doing a pickleball court at Memorial Park. So those are some capital expenditures that may be coming up. We have to talk a little bit more about those with the board, but that's what we have going on. And yeah, so otherwise, questions?
I'll make one point. I don't think that there's been a determination about who would be responsible for the mowing.
Yeah.
So that might be an assumption on your part.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that we have to have the mowers for soccer and stuff.
But I go back to my point. No one says you're responsible for the mowing.
That's fine, we're just preparing for it though.
Yeah,
So
right,
we're
because it may be a highway thing. I mean, certainly there's mowing in the area that has nothing to do with the Parks Department.
Yeah, Mark and I
So-
talked a little bit about that actually. So we talked about possibly us mowing the back and then take care of the front, sort of like they do with Memorial Park. We take care of the ball fields and they take care of everything outside the ball field. So we have had some discussions about it. But remains to be seen.
Sure.
Building inspector, commissioner?
Thank you. My budget's a chip shot. It's level, it's gonna be the same hours, if anything. I mean, it's actually a new code cycle, but we purchased books, so we're in great shape. Moving forward for next year, I don't really anticipate any great changes or anything. Maybe the reimbursement for miles might go up depending on that. But other than
It's the
that,
IRS level, right?
it's pretty tight.
Isn't it typical?
IRS.
IRS level, yeah.
How many permits this year go for building?
Over 300 building permits, probably another 300 electrical and plumbing.
New
Lots of
construction,
rooftops over.
new construction, I mean, obviously all those houses on Chapin, et cetera.
Yeah, there's actually another larger house starting on Chapin. They've actually erased 2 houses this year. Skipton's
property.
is going down, and then one on a National Grid property, East Long Meadow Road no one ever knew it was there. It was back in the field on their property, but they just taken that one down. But I mean, building wise, we've been really good. We still do all our regular inspections. We just did restaurants and bars. We just stay on top of everything. I don't really see anything drastic in the future with regards to our needs.
Highway?
So I feel pretty confident that the highway department's budget, fiscal year 25 budget, is on track, trending on track for this time of year, about halfway through. I don't foresee any, any major expenditures. I'll just be keeping an eye on, service fees for contractors. Those seem to be going up and up and up. And utility bill fees, but I think those are kind of stable right now. Might even go down a little bit, who knows, but I think currently we're in really good shape.
No new trucks? Any other toys, anything?
Electric
So that
ones?
could probably end up being another meeting in itself, because of some regulations that are only now trying to be enforced, even though they were put in place in 2021. Basically, there are 2 regulations, CARB Act and then the Heavy Diesel Omnibus Act. A couple of weeks ago, Brian and I had attended a workshop where they kind of went into detail both on the state side and then on our private dealer side, and how this is going to affect not only municipalities, but anybody that drives a diesel truck. So for now, Public Works snow moving equipment has been exempt for 1 year. However, nobody's really talking about what's gonna happen after that. Again, some regulations may change, but nobody's really talking about that. If this were to go through, it's gonna have a huge impact on my department, the bus department, and also hiring private contractors, because these trucks are so expensive. And along everything that comes along with it, with them, that those costs are gonna be, passed on to customers. So I was told, make this, and I'm serious, I'd be happy to have another meeting, and kind of talk about what Brian and I learned at that seminar.
Do they want to change to electric, is that it?
Correct. They want to phase out diesel, and they're gonna be going after the gas powered, and they want to eventually be going all diesel. Now, in some cases, it could make sense, but I don't know that a lot of thorough thought was put into the exemptions. Currently, they've exempted fire trucks, EMT diesel trucks, and for some reason, forestry equipment, but they had completely overlooked municipal vehicles, even state municipal vehicles. And what'll happen is these trucks, they're already very, very hard to come by. So, I think we're in good shape for the next couple of years anyways, to see where this all kind of goes. It's quite amazing. I mean, the infrastructure and everything else that needs to be put in place is just, so. But they're saying, for a quick example, if you pave a mile of road right now and it costs you $100,000, and then, you know, you hire a contractor to pave a mile of road, it costs $100,000. In like a couple of years, that same mile of road will cost you $400,000, because it's just, you know, they're gonna be passing those costs onto the, so.
Is there any effect to buying out of state? Will they not register in Massachusetts if you buy out of state?
There's not, that question came up, and they were gonna, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but there was a comment made that there's gonna be an actual language on the title, not to be sold out of state or something like that, or not to be.
Yeah, and you have to
sold
sticker to be registered.
out.
You don't need to have a certain sticker to be registered,
Right.
that it's whatever it is. So, it might be ways.
Mark, in terms of equipment, like you just said, assuming this doesn't go through and the rush to change everything to electric goes away, in your projected thing, were there any vehicles in the next year or so that were on your list to change over?
So I did have a dump truck, but it's it's our oldest one, that I didn't want to update, but I want to see what happens. I mean, that dump truck alone could end up being a huge commodity, you know, in a couple of years.
It'll have more value on the resale market.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
For different applications, sure.
The other thing is, so still kind of waiting to see what happens with EWB. I would possibly be looking for an extra piece of equipment to plow the parking lot. I considered one of those mini articulating loaders with a snow push box. These are just thoughts.
I was thinking an extra shovel.
And an extra shovel. Yeah, that too. But I kind of, you know, and like Dan mentioned too, we had a brief conversation about possible arrangements on a mowing schedule over there. Nothing, you know, nothing, just kind of a informal conversation about that, whereas they could keep their playing fields at a certain height and groomed, you know, while we would kind of do everything else. But so if that were the case, I would be due for a new lawnmower anyways. I was gonna go for one in the fall, but I still wanted to wait and see what was gonna happen. If that's the case, we might upgrade just to a bigger size with a leaf catchment system. Other than that, I think we're in really good shape with our trucks and equipment. We did finally get our tractor in, and that's been out on the road, working, so that's a relief.
And your crew's contract expires this year, so we gotta negotiate that.
Yes, sir, yep,
And you too, right?
mine as well, yes.
Does that new CARB Act and the diesel thing affect machinery?
It will,
So it's gonna affect everything?
yes. And, you know, so there was a gentleman there from Freightliner, one of the biggest truck dealers in the area. And they, you know, right now, they do have a model for the 26,000 GVW. Just the cab and chassis on it is 450,000, just the cab and chassis. The battery only lasts for 6 hours, and you can only use it as a box. You can either put a box on it for a box truck or a flatbed. They haven't come up with not the technology, but a way to hook up a PTO system that can simultaneously run a sander, a plow, perhaps a dump function. It's just way too. But it's a huge concern. It's kind of buzzing about this. So
Batteries in the cold. All right,
kind of just wait and see. But I at least want to bring that up to anybody else that has a fleet, because what do they say too, Brian? Like in another year or two, they want to start auditing businesses, municipalities, to make sure that they're rotating their fleets out for EV. And it's concerning. And that's gas too. At some point, that'll be gas fleets too.
Thank you. John, are you here for any?
Maddie's over there. Yeah, Maddie's here.
Okay, we'll get to Matt. We'll do Eva.
As far as collector and clerk goes, we're in good shape. On the other hand, elections, probably we're looking for money this year to, we thought, because we've got one more election in fiscal '25, and we really got slammed with the state elections, with early voting. It just is, we get some kickback from the state. Not.
Reimbursement.
So, I'm sorry, reimbursement from the state.
Yeah.
But they don't cover any of the expense for mailing or anything, and we're talking about 97 cents a buck a pop just for mailing. That's not anything else involved, not even manpower or anything, and there's a lot behind those things. But the good news is, in fiscal '26, we'll cut that budget. The other one's might be.
Oh, yeah, because you don't have elections, right?
But that's gonna be significantly lower.
All right. Board of Health?
Bad news is postage is going up.
Yeah, but we don't.
And I don't know.
2 years.
Yeah, and I don't know what's gonna happen after that. I heard there's gonna be one more rate increase as well. I don't know. So we may have to, I don't know if we'll make it to the end of the year with
Postage.
transfer station. I can't really predict what's gonna happen as far as the recycling goes. I gave the sheets to John for you to look at for the MRF, what the price is now. It's the first 5 months. Arlene is projecting that the rebate on the recycling is gonna go up. I've heard it before too. Oh, steel's worth $10 a pound, and then you turn around the next day, it's, oh, you're gonna pay $10 a pound for steel. So I don't know. I really can't. It may go down in salary by April. You know, what you guys wanna do.
No, we're happy with what we have. I think we
Yeah,
can extend that out.
This is-
We're good.
No, we can extend it out. We're good. We took a vote of the board.
Yeah.
Very hard. I will say that Arlene is pretty experienced and her projections have been good in the past. Maybe it is an opportunity, though, if there is more value in recyclables, to look around other companies and see if there is another option. It just means that with the value in them, we're not going to be kicking in as much. That is, if we were paying $90 a ton to get it out and we were getting 50, now we're gonna be getting 70 for it, so we're only out $20.
Right.
But who's to say that company XYZ doesn't have a better deal and they're gonna pay us $100 and we'll actually make money on MRF? So I think it's worth kicking the tires and seeing what's out there. We have plenty of time because the contract isn't quite up. So I think there's opportunity there for that type of thing. The transfer station budget, enterprise fund, Cliff has been a magician in keeping it going for many years. I think he actually kicks in his own money to balance the books. Thank you, Cliff. But same thing, I think the biggest impact to the health department going forward is potential retirement happening, and we're efforting a change in that.
Oh, we are also looking into a commercial Title V for TWB.
Right.
Hard to find somebody with a big system, real big system.
I think Gary gave us some input on that at the meeting you had. Yeah.
I asked Lori, and
Yeah.
Lori went over and looked at it with the plans and everything. She said she couldn't do it at all. They would have to hire a big firm, so she is calling a couple of firms for us.
Okay.
You mean there's a septic tank specialist by size?
Yes.
Yeah.
Commercial versus a smaller system,
Yeah.
but
Don't they all work the same way?
no, we don't. It's how many pumping chambers they have, how many, what kind of pumping chambers it is. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
I would imagine you probably don't have that many big buildings that aren't already connected to a town sewer or something like that, so it's probably fairly unusual to see them still out connected to a field that aren't in an industrial district, yeah.
There are a lot of small towns in Western Mass, you know? I don't know.
But other than that,
Okay. Chief?
Evening. We seem to be okay right now. We'll have to keep an eye on our budget as we move into the next 6 months. The first 6 months have been okay. We did sign a new contract as of July, and there's some areas in there that could take away of our excess that we've had as we move towards the end of the year. So there's some concerns there. A couple unforeseen situations that we're dealing with now that could take away even more of our excess that we have in our budget. Moving forward we actually, first 6 months, we had hired our new reserve officer. He actually ended up resigning from us. He didn't feel the fit, wanted to continue to stay at Western New England and get back into what the sheriff's department was doing before. The other one that we had hired previous year had gone out on medical immediately, and he's not come back. And the expectation is that he's probably not going to come back. He's been hoping and trying to keep up with training and stuff like that through our department and another department he was working with. So that's a concern. We're down to like 4 active reserve officers that are filling in for our full-timers when they go on vacation. We've been exhausting our 40-hour week with our full-timers, and some of the full-timers that do get it are at a much higher increased pay due to the negotiations we had. So there are definitely some concerns for me as we get towards the next 6 months. Going into the newer fiscal year, I'd like to look at more training towards working together with the fire department, police and EMS. It's called an alert training, and they're starting to do this training around area communities, which I think would be very beneficial to our officers if we were to get into a situation of an active shooter situation. Definitely costly because you want everybody trained. It's a 16-hour class that you go to. State police come in along with other area departments, and they train up your officers to the highest level that we can train. So I definitely think we'd like to go that route. So I'd be looking to add more in our training. Possibly our cruisers are starting to get up there. I know we said last time we wanted to see how long we could go before we start to get into any type of issues with mechanical problems. As Mark brought up, we may be affected in the near future too as a hybrid cruiser, as being a gas model. But we're up around our 70,000 mile mark. Usually for good trade-ins and stuff, we usually try to hit that 100,000 mark. So it's something that I'd probably be looking to try to add something, another cruiser to get into our yearly or alternating years of getting cruisers. Again, I'll still look to maybe do new firearms. Our firearms now are coming on that 8-year-old mark, which is our handgun. We did replace our rifle, but the 9mm is definitely a weapon of choice that is surrounding communities and efficient, definitely cost-effective for the ammunition that we use compared to our 45s, and just a all-around better weapon compared to our 8-year-old 45 that we carry. Possible, not confirmed, but I may have a retirement that I might be looking at in July of a longtime officer, but that's always on the back burner. I communicate regularly with the officer, but I'm not really sure if we're going to go past July or not. And that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Vests at all?
No, we're doing fine right now with yeah, we haven't had any issues. I got that reimbursement right after we had that meeting. Yeah, just the state reimbursed us, and we're just waiting to put in for any notice that we have to. So I think I might have fell back and maybe came premature to the meeting. I was probably involved.
Do you have anything, Mr. Accountant, do you have anything to account for?
Books are balanced.
That's all we need to know next.
Now, our revenues are running well ahead of our expenditures. So our tax collections and other revenues are more than matching our our expenditures.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a thing I like to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And you see anybody in danger yet of running out of money?
I don't think so. You know, it's pretty hard this time of year.
Yeah.
There's
Only
still
65.
everybody's, you know, when you look at the percentages, there's still a large percentage of funds in their accounts balancing. And there's nobody in danger of overspending right now.
Right.
So I think the town right now financially is in good shape.
That's good to hear. Any new books?
Lots of new books. Hi, everyone. I just got an email today to say that we are certified with the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, which is always good news. I go through a process each year to meet the criteria. It's a lot of financial reports, and they basically want to know absolutely everything about the library, especially the financials. So we get some awards for different things. There's a lot of letters, the LIG, the MEG, the NRC, but the bottom line is we use that money for technology, so it's great to have, and we're anticipating using that. Like, I use it a little bit each year to replace computers and copiers. We've never done them all at once, so it's kind of a staggered process, so it's really nice to have that money available to keep everything up to date. Our budget is right on track. Our staffing is awesome. We have a great staff. We had a huge party in this room and the Rochford Reading Room on Saturday because Santa and Mrs. Claus were here. So it was a wonderful turnout for that. That's always a big event for us. Our circulation is up from last year, and especially ebooks. Those are very impressive, the amount of ebooks that are checked out each month. And other than that, I think we're just cruising right along with lots of new books. We have to spend a certain amount of our budget. It's right at 19.5% of our operating budget to be certified with the state. So I have the really tough job of making sure I spend all that money. And we did it again, so that's good. Thank you.
How about your windows? You get those windows installed?
I don't know. What happened with those?
Windows? Library windows?
We heard they're in. Not in the building, but we heard that the contractor received them recently. So we need to schedule a time for those.
Okay. That'd be great. Thanks.
I'm the rookie, so I'll defer.
Okay.
We anticipate having a level service budget next year as well. The only increases we usually have on an annual basis are consultants, software support and stuff like that we need, and our expense line. And that's usually contingent on the type of mandatory training that we must have for the two employees that we have in there. Other than that, though, I don't think we're going to see much in the way of increase, and it's pretty much average through the year.
Planning?
I don't remember having major budget surprises. One thing I did want to talk about was potentially getting more permanent support for Joanne for clerical help. Perhaps training somebody every 2 months to help them.
Pretty good.
Sometimes just isn't enough. If we had somebody helping her in the fall town meeting, that person's stopped, but we still have meeting minutes we have to do. We have a couple of hearings that happen really regularly and they're ongoing, so for all of those, we have to have meeting minutes. Not sure how to approach that.
Well, we have the temp helpline. We've talked before about using that for additional help.
I know, but it's hard to get somebody, then she has to train them, they stop, somebody else starts, she has to retrain them.
You want a permanent person?
Yeah. Or I don't know if it's somebody that can support the whole, everybody in the town building, just somebody regular. It's an idea.
How's your hearing schedule?
What's that?
How's your hearing schedule?
crazy. A lot of them, not on one. And all those come with admin work too, having to post and.
Maddie, do you think there's a possibility of Kibbe Lane this year, or is it all dependent on the developer?
It's all dependent on the developer.
Wait,
I haven't been, he's heard back from them.
No.
So it's kind of, I don't know.
you ever thought of eminent domain? Could you take it with eminent domain?
You have to have an overriding public interest, and we've had this conversation before, and it would just say, the town, it is a private road, but there's not much more the town would be doing if it was a town road. You plow it. It's maintained, pretty much the same as every other road in town. So the school bus picks up the kids. It'd just be nice to actually have the sign in front, you know? But it's the oldest project we've ever had in town. And I know you,
I'm just
your
surprised.
son lives there.
I'm just surprised that nobody's been after him.
It's,
No, they plow the street, they do a hell of a job there, the school bus goes all the way down, there's no problem. I mean, it's treated the way a regular town accepted road is treated.
Right.
So what do we need to do with it? Accept it?
Well, it needs to be presented to accept it. Right. And there's a bit of a, not too deep into it, there's a bit of a legal background to it.
Legal.
Yeah.
Between town, state, and Kibbe, they can't get in touch with the Kibbe family to take ownership of the property, which means that we can't take action to accept it as a town.
There was a note up there, someone was asking for Maddie to
speak up
as to what she first talked about.
Can you give it?
I got it.
Thanks, Glenn.
That was about the help.
The help, yeah, okay, all right. It was about the permanent help, Maddie.
It was just asking for permanent help for Joanne for administrative duties for the planning board.
But you were also saying you thought that if there was a permanent town hall employee that could dedicate X number of hours towards planning, that might be a solution as well.
Right, just somebody that's trained.
A floater,
that could
yeah,
fill in
right.
as needed.
Sure.
All right.
Other than that, we're working on battery energy storage systems bylaw and updating our apartment accessory dwelling units for everything.
Right. And that's certainly going to be a thing because of the open period between February and potentially the town meeting that is a bit of a Wild West at that point.
Now, in the economic development bond bill that the governor just signed, there's a section in there about solar that says that the town has to have all permits approved of solar within 12 months. It's a new thing. I'll have to send it to you. And if they don't do it, the state will come in and do it.
Because they're so fast at doing things, right? Yeah.
So the question is that when you say the permit has to be approved, does that mean that it has to go through the whole process?
Everybody, Concom, planning, building inspector, stormwater, in 12 months. Pretty.
It's not aggressive.
I was gonna say, pretty ambitious.
A little bit.
Yeah. I'll send a copy over to you, Maddie. Anything else? Cemetery, Holly? Hi.
So our cemetery commission general funds is looking good. We've actually had 28% more interments this year. I don't know if that's necessarily good news or not.
Don would say business is not dying, that's what you're saying?
But I'm actually, we've been working on a survey of the commissions in Hampden County to make sure that we're charging an appropriate amount compared to other towns. And I'm also doing some surveys regarding the vendor fees we pay for opening and closing graves. We want to make sure that we're fair to our vendors. The one area that I do see to be changing for the coming year, our landscaping company that mows has let us know that there will be a cost of living increase, but they haven't told us what it is yet. So we're just holding on that. And we've also began fertilizing the cemeteries. So that was something that was not included in prior years. We did send that out for bid, but we sent it out for bid in the highest part of landscaping season, and we only got one bid back. So I'm hoping if I can send that out for bid now, when landscapers are a little less busy, maybe I can get a better bid for that. But that did come in at quite a bit. The other area is we don't have a secretary, so we do have a surplus in our secretarial clerical fund.
Okay, thank you. Water Commission? John?
John Plaster, Water Commission. We are proceeding. We have got one bid down last week for the, it's basically for the subs, they call it electrical and other items inside the building. This Thursday, we'll be getting the final bids for the construction of the building and the main installation of the main. So that'll be coming Thursday. Hopefully we'll be able to award that proceeding. We want to get this in the works, signed before the end of the year, just to retain some financing that's out there. As far as operating expenses for the coming year, we probably won't be in line at least till June at the earliest. And I would anticipate that our operating expenses are probably gonna double because we're gonna have more houses we have to read. All the new installations now will have a radio RF meter. So they don't have to go in twice a year, only once a year to do the backflow testing. So that's where we are right now. Any questions?
Okay, so.
I'll give a quick report from the COA. Becky wasn't able to be here at this point. A lot of their funding comes from some of the state grants, the 3C grants. Right now, they're holding firm, but as Doug will remember, this wouldn't be the first time that the state has cut the grant halfway through the year, just like they've done, remember, they cut the cherry sheet halfway through the year. And I don't think we're really hearing positive news from the state that they're in a good financial situation.
They're not.
No, so they're not making any noise about next year's, and much like I'm sure John Provost said, they have no crystal ball that tells them what next year's budget is going to bring. They don't anticipate a decrease, that's really not happened, but an increase that would keep pace with inflation doesn't seem to be on the horizon for elder services.
Just a thing on the mask.
Oh, quickly, I'm sorry. And I think I heard from Ed, the fire, unfortunately, Ed is under the weather tonight. Brian might have a report on the fire department.
Just quickly, the master plan committee is plowing ahead through chapters. We got one chapter left, 1.5 chapters left, Tad? 1.5. And then the plan then would be, we send it back to the consultant, they'll make our changes, revisions, answer our questions, have another draft to look at it, and keep working on it. Hopefully we'll have something by town meeting, you know. What?
Dick's online.
Well, the treasurer, Mr. Patullo, you're on there? You on mute?
Really?
Hello.
Hello.
I don't really have much to report. My department isn't directly related to a lot of expenses. Our cash flow is in pretty good situation. This is traditionally the worst time of year for us for cash flow. It doesn't get better for about another 6 weeks, and we're really in a better position than I've seen before. So we won't have to do any short-term borrowing or borrowing from internal borrowing to get through. We seem to be in pretty good shape.
Thank you. Brian?
A lot of the stuff that I'll be working on the next 6 months has already been mentioned. One of the things that we hope to do is finally get the fire station generator installed. We have money, we have, well, the contract with the electrician will be signed hopefully tomorrow, and that will hopefully get going. We'll likely have a kickoff meeting with Mark, Ed, the electrician, the engineer, and myself on Monday to get that finally going and started. Planning for TWB in Townhouse. There was a meeting this past week about how do we come to decisions about those different buildings. So we'll be doing a lot of work on that. We'll be helping a lot with the Water District expansion project. Bids are due next Thursday, as John had mentioned, and then we'll be pushing that out pretty hard. One thing that wasn't mentioned, so we've been working behind the scenes on a new website that will hopefully roll out sometime in February. And looking to the next fiscal year, there's a new ambulance contract that needs to be negotiated, I believe. Any costs, operation or capital costs associated with TWB, if that's the way that the town decides to go. And additional town meeting costs. The AV setup and the electronic voting, there's costs associated with both of those that aren't typically budgeted. So if those are things that we would like to continue to use, there's going to be costs associated with that moving forward. And also in terms of staffing, there's been an ongoing request for a conservation agent. And I imagine that will probably come back up again. But otherwise, I think it'll be fairly similar to FY25. Obviously, we had the increase in employee benefits that we funded at the special town meeting. I think that those will need to carry forward. So that's about it.
Anything else? Yes?
Boiler today, again locked out, had to call BG again to come in. I had to leave and Brian talked to them and they said they're not really sure what's going on with it. They're gonna talk to the manufacturer and get back to us, whether it's the motherboard or whatever you call it, the boiler, or whatever. They're gonna try and figure it out and get us.
Too.
Seems to be working pretty good right now.
That's because they came in all day long, it was freezing.
They tried to catch up,
Poor
yeah.
Cindy was like an ice cube.
Because the building's on top.
But yeah, it is working now, thank God.
Rises.
It's either east or.
Some people are missing is conservation, I think.
Yeah, conservation, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and got another 6 months. Want to have a tax rate discussion?
Well,
Gonna hang around for this?
well, tax rate discussions on the agenda. Are you guys close, or are you still mulling over the data?
The data is in. You have the data that we have.
Well, are you ready to call final tax rate increase? Sorry, you've got a projected tax rate.
You were supposed to have a discussion after that. That's what we were doing.
Well, that's where we're at.
Okay. If we turn that loose, that number is gonna.
Hey, Doug?
Yeah, you
Want to stay? We're talking tax rate.
Tax rate.
Tax rate. Is Dick still on?
Is putting the dick still on? Yeah. All right.
So I'll start. You sent an email out, or your department sent an email out that was saying after all the paperwork was done, there was a possibility, I don't know how to say it, that the average tax bill would see about 8% increase.
8.51,
8.51 increase.
average single-family tax.
Right. And had some conversations with Doug, and maybe I just don't understand as much of the inner workings or whatever. I just cannot make the 8.5% increase work in my mind.
Agreed.
Okay, and you might be like, I don't know why, because I know we talked about the water project impacting the tax rate. But then we took the first year payment for a water project, we took out of stabilization. So that wouldn't have an impact. And then I just don't see the budget having gone up 8%. If I look at what we appropriated, nothing in the fall affected the budget because we paid for it all out of free cash. So what we passed in May 2024, I didn't see 8% higher than May 2023. And that's where I got an issue. Now, I know there's obviously, tax rate doesn't mean anything because values go up. So to me, what matters is the average tax bill for somebody who did, honestly, no value increase to their house. That house was worth the average number last year, no addition on it, no new garage, no nothing. It would be responsible for the increase in the budget to go up in their average tax bill. And why is that going up 8+%?
Should the treasurer be at this meeting?
He's on.
Yeah.
Want to bring them on? Ask them their question.
Dick?
Okay, Dick?
That's I'm not sure that's really a question for my job, but my best analysis is that we had a extreme increase in values on residential properties, and the other large component of our tax base, personal property, apparently depreciates every year. So when you compare like bills, the increase in the levy, when you subtract out the part that is absorbed by new growth, was 5.3%. Originally, I thought it was going to be 5, but the assessors ended up adding a little more to the overlay, so hence the 0.3%. So it seems to be a matter of strictly the valuations, and the way that new growth is treated on personal property is kind of confusing to me. We had a $23 million new growth figure on personal property, and yet the total personal property value only went up 20 million. It actually went up less than the new growth, but apparently there's quite a bit of depreciation in those bills, which means they're not carrying as much of the water as they used to. John, you said that the water project didn't have an effect on the tax rate, and that's not true. We decided, if you remember, at a meeting a couple of 3 weeks ago, to put, was it 400 or 450,000 of the water project onto this year's tax rate, in addition to the 650 that we did with stabilization.
No, I mean, that's where Doug and I had the conversation. We thought the only thing that was going to the tax rate was the amount that we took out of stabilization, not the extra 450. I don't.
Well, you want to go back and look at the tape, that certainly wasn't the.
That, I understand that, Dick. So we're not borrowing the entire water district project in one fiscal year. You're going over several years with it, right?
So forgive me, I'm quoting from memory here. I don't have my work computer in front of me. The total project's $3.5 million. $1 million out of a grant, 650 out of stabilization, 450 on this year's tax rate, and I think that made it a $1.4 million borrowing. I think that's the numbers I gave you.
I think so.
Yep, that works.
Yep.
Okay. And we have to do that all in 1 year?
No, we decided to do 450, and borrow 1.4 million. So the goal would be to try to get the water project paid off in, I don't know, 3 to 5 years if we're lucky.
So I wasn't in the discussions with you in advisory. I think we were presented with the 6 something you took out of stabilization was gonna go against the 450 on the tax rate, not separately taking another bite on the borrowing.
Well, I would go back and look at the tape, John, because I disagree wholeheartedly.
Okay, but going back to, and this goes back to my other point there, you talk about the values, you talk about the increase in new growth, and all that is good for the value of the community. I go back to the average tax bill going up 8%, and the reason it goes up 8% is because we're spending 8% more money. And is the 8% more money because of the majority of it is the borrowing for the water project, not because of the budget?
The borrowing for the water, or the money that we're not borrowing for the water project, more appropriately, the 450,000 would be about 3%.
There it is.
So the budget would have gone up
5%.
over 5% without the water project.
Yes.
No, the average single-family tax bill would go up 5% without the water budget. The assessment would probably only go up 3%, maybe. The actual tax increase across the board.
That's not how I read your email. And this is where we're talking different things. We're collecting X number of dollars because we appropriated X number of dollars. And if the average tax bill is going up 8+%, that's the average. It's not, in my mind, related to the value. It's the average tax bill, whether my house did nothing, your house put on a garage, whatever. The average tax bill across thing is getting 8+ more %. We had a budget of, correct me, 15 million?
15, yeah.
15 million.
16?
So we needed
16.
1.3, so 8% is $1.3 million, roughly.
16.6.
Okay, $1.4 million. We did not spend $1.4 million extra in the last budget year, Don, did we?
John, if
I
I
know,
added it right, it was about 800 or 900,
Yeah.
the additional spending.
probably. So that's where I can't get, or maybe it's the terminology, Bob, and that could be part of it as well. But I'm saying the person who had the house on Main Street that was worth $350,000, roughly the average, and did nothing to it, their bill is gonna go up 8%?
The way it is right now, the way the numbers are right now, it goes at 8.5%.
I have a tough time wrapping my head around this
I
stuff.
think-
And Doug, I don't know if you've got a better sense of it.
No, I can't connect the numbers in my analysis of it. My understanding was that the overall increase to the taxes to the town, everything was gonna be a little over 5%, which if I understand it correctly is still the case. I don't understand how where residential is 85% of our tax base, how we end up with a 3% skew, because the assessments on residential went up more quickly, went up higher than on the commercial, industrial, and personal side. The skew doesn't seem to make sense, it doesn't correlate.
Well, the increases are given to us. The only increase in commercial and industrial is in land value, not buildings. I think it was 4% for commercial and 2% for industrial.
Yeah.
I believe, and please, I'm working out of the old memory.
Yeah, it's 4%.
Yeah, 4% and 2% for industrial. I think if I might.
That was the increase on those?
One was 4.2
on the land,
and the other one was
Right, well,
0.66.
that helps on explaining, because it's 11% increase on the residential. So I mean, there's a pretty significant disparity in those valuations.
So I think if I understood just listening, and please, I think your statement was that 600,000 came from stabilization for the water, but also, to what Dick said, another 450 was added.
Right.
Out of the money, Brian, right?
Yep.
So if you take that 450, that's the whole new growth.
True. So we have a water project that was, Fred, 3.5, right?
Ish.
Yeah, 3.5.
Right, 3.5, we're gonna get $1 million for a grant, we need 2.5. And out of that 2.5, we're gonna go ahead and pay off 1.1 in the first year.
Yeah, I'm not questioning what you did with the water, I'm just saying that's what, the way I understood.
All I'm saying
it,
is,
yeah.
Dick's really good with numbers and understanding future needs and stuff, and his point is like, don't keep pushing off, you may need that money later, but is knocking off 1.1 in the first year of a 2.5 too much to balance against the increase in the tax thing? Is that an opportunity for discussion there? If we took 6 something out of stabilization, do we only put 2 something on the tax rate? And because you do that, you still knocked it down by 1/3 in the first year. And a 3-year project isn't really out of sight.
John,
Yep.
if I may?
Yep.
It's really hard to take credit for the 650 because that came from old money, from stabilization. And in using your example of using 650 and a couple $100,000 on the tax rate here, that is not a predictor of what we can do in the future because that 650 is a one-shot deal. We might be able to take a little more out of stabilization. But, you know, after we've decided that it was perfectly safe to take 650 out of stabilization, now we're left with, you know, how long are we going to take to pay off the water project that people voted for? And so $200,000, you know, you're talking about 10 years at that rate to pay it off.
Well, I didn't say 200 every year, and your point, to bring your point further, yes, if you only do 200 the first year, and now you want to do the second third of 800, it's a huge jump the second year.
Right.
So going from 4 to 8 the second year doesn't look as bad, or it doesn't jump up as bad. But it still goes back to where it's a heck of a jump for a year, honestly, except for the water, Don. We did not have a huge thing, and we have things coming forward.
Well, we had about a 5% increase, 5.7, I think, percent increase in the budget. Is that right, Doug? Does that sound right?
4.7.
4.7? Okay.
4.7 on the operating budget, yeah.
Does that include what we added at the fall?
I believe it does, yes.
Well,
It does.
well, add in the fall.
No, not the fall.
No, because you add nothing in the fall, you apply, yeah, right.
We had an adjustment to the green sheets that I took into account calculating that 4.7% increase. 4.7 is the operating budget from last year to this year.
No.
Doesn't include the extra 100,000 that we put into employee benefits at the last meeting.
Right, but again, that was out of the free cash, and then you took the leftover, the 600, to mitigate the 4.7.
Yeah, but that really doesn't matter in the end, John, on that. It's still part of the operating budget. And, you know, otherwise the free cash number would have just gone to reducing the tax rate. You have to include that 100,000 in our operating budget increase.
No, for next year, I understand that, but Don, you want to take a crack at this?
No.
No? Craig?
I think the only thing I'm hearing is because valuations went up, the taxes go up.
Well, they would go up anyhow, but
Because of the increase in the valuations this year, it's increasing everything else in succession.
Right, but if the bills are going up 8% across the board, whether you value it or not, you're collecting 8% more money.
See, that's the problem, we're not. The problem is that.
But that's the average tax bill going up 8.5.
That's the average single-family home tax bill.
Right.
It doesn't, as Bob was just saying, or Phil, whoever, the commercial bills didn't go up, the personal properties went down, that's 20% of our base between those two.
So the 8.5 is making up for the shortfall in the other ones?
Exactly right.
Yes.
When you take our total levy this year to last year, and you take out the money that should be covered by new growth, it's a 5.3% increase.
So we need double the tax on Eversource, okay? Get on it.
Yeah.
Bob, can you do that? Change their values. That substation is worth 100 million, I'm telling you.
All right. Are we all set there?
Because
I'm not happy.
No, I know, no.
valuation
All right,
residential.
So
the board has determined that they don't understand, but thank you for your input.
So maybe the discussion down the road is split tax rate?
Yes, which I brought up, I kept asking about. But we didn't
Well, we
want to
had
do
a-
that because it would hurt some of the small businesses and commercial property owners.
And still what? I mean, the
I
problem,
mean, I think it's a discussion worth having, but I'm not sure that that's the solution.
Right.
I think at its core, this is the result of inflation. Inflation drove up these values, artificially.
Right.
Yeah.
It's skewing the assessment of the tax burden on our residents.
right.
It's shifting it to the residential properties, yes.
Okay,
And thank you.
thank you.
That part-
Thanks, Dick.
You guys for staying.
Thank you guys for staying. Water Commission connections, Water District connections.
John, you want to come up? We can't hear you back there, so.
Right.
Picked it up.
20 minutes over address.
Yeah, it's his own.
They still don't get it. But a lot of things they don't understand.
40 minutes behind schedule.
Huh?
We're 40 minutes.
I
behind
know,
schedule.
faster.
Uh-huh.
All right. Go ahead. What are we gonna do here with water connections? What are we deciding?
You want to start, John? You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, start, I'll fill in.
So I sent out 3 things to the board. And board as in the Board of Health, same board. So we have all of the addresses that are currently testing, right? Yeah, I think you have this spreadsheet that was sent out.
When?
Last week. Hopefully you got it. If not, here. So you have it in your packet now. These are the listing. This is the listing of all the addresses that are tested. Green are those addresses that are already connected. And the white are the ones that are testing, but there are no detections for PFAS. So this is speaking PFAS only. The orangish, brownish ones, tannish ones, those are ones that have detects. May 24, I've asked Mass DEP for August 24 testing results. My original question was, and John and I had discussions about this, was who should we make an offer for the town to hook up? That was our original question. In further discussions that John and I had today, and Jane was part of it, is that the testing isn't limited to PFAS. These addresses are, except for 9 of these addresses are tested for other chemicals, contaminants.
The VOCs and
Right.
things like that? Okay.
PFAS.
So the only way that we relieve ourselves of those testing costs are if the private well is no longer used for drinking water. So our original thought when John and I were talking about this was, could we just hook up those who have PFAS detections? But the answer to that is no, because it won't save us on testing costs, because they'll still be required to test, except for about 6 of those addresses. 9, so there's 9 that were added in January 2024 to test for PFAS only. 3 of those have detections for PFAS, so that means there's 6 that, in theory, we don't necessarily have to hook up, but, so that was really the question, is who do we make this initial offer to hook up? And that's the discussion that we wanted to have. I guess I was leaning towards everybody on the list. We can make that offer. Obviously, there's going to be some people who don't want to hook up, and there's different questions associated with that. But that's the reason why we wanted to put this on the agenda.
So the money that the town voted for, and the money, the town meeting, that's to hook up everybody? That is, we hooked up everybody, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
But the question you also have is like, some people don't want to be hooked up. And does that mean we have to keep paying the cost to test them? I mean, do they have that option?
I think that was a question we had for DEP, was when we had our water discussion meetings, was if these people don't want to be hooked up, when we're offering to hook them up to remediate a contaminant concern, do they now need to sign a waiver absolving the town of any liability because they don't want to be part of the solution?
Right.
And then at that point, are they responsible for the testing?
Or are we forced to offer the other solution of filtering, which would be enormously expensive?
We need to offer a solution, and we're offering a solution.
Right, but are we obligated to offer?
Well, no,
Other solution.
I don't think so. I think
Okay, that's the
we have to
question,
come
yeah.
up with the solution. We have the solution, which is a district expansion.
The town has voted for the solution.
The town has voted for the solution. If a resident doesn't want to be part of the solution, then I feel like they need to sign a.
And I agree with you. Is this something we can get, you know, Dan has moved on unfortunately
Right.
to another job, and I think Tom is now maybe taking over. Can we get them to give us a definitive answer? They are loath to do so on occasion. I
Right.
Saw that.
Yeah.
They like to give guidance.
The last we heard was we didn't have any guidance from them on that.
Yeah.
But that would be my recommendation.
One of the ideas we floated was if they have no detection, we kind of answered that ourselves, is that the problem still exists. They're not affected by it, but the problem is still up the hill. So it's kind of a Board of Health issue. And if someone decides they don't want to hook up and take part of the solution, we're not liable, in my opinion. But that's up to the lawyers to make that.
Because in DEP's eyes was either we test and filter or find an alternate water source.
True, but then they sell the place a year later and the new owner says, no, I want to be hooked up.
Well, that would be on their deed disclosure.
Sure, it'd be nice to get something from DEP. It's worth reaching out for another one of those meetings we had, John.
Did you send something out, Dan, to Dan?
Yeah, but you said Dan's not there,
Oh, that's
right?
Yeah, but he said, no, he just moved to, he would still.
I emailed Dan and Tom Spate.
Yeah.
So if somebody refuses to install, what we would do in terms of the project is we would probably install we would tap the main, install a stub, and put a curb stop for future connections, I think. But, so the question becomes in what happens, testing aside, whether we have to do it or not. The theory is that the town is allegedly liable for the contamination because it comes from the landfill. Now, people could have no detects now, but because the water cycle and groundwater, they could have detects in the future. And the question is, what's the liability of the town at that point?
I think we absolve that by hooking all the connections up, right?
Yeah, we'll have difficulty. I mean, if you have, in my opinion, the Board of Health has the ability for people who don't have potable water, to order them to get potable water, whether it's through filtration or hooking to the system. But for those who have no detects, I don't know what authority the town has to force them to hook up. And I don't think that we can say, well, just so we can be relieved of these testing costs, you have to hook up. I don't think the Board of Health has that authority.
That was the initial solution from DEP, was to provide everyone, whether they had detects or not. So that was their original direction. So that's what we were kind of basing all this determination off of, was the direction from the DEP.
Well, maybe that's the letter you sent to them, that you gave us direction to hook all these people up. We're prepared to do that. What do we do if someone doesn't want to hook up?
Well, they also drew a pretty wide district, and I think, we now have data of like 2 testing cycles showing there is absolutely nothing.
Right.
Is there an opportunity to go back and say, look, maybe you took the pencil too far? You see nothing here. I mean, where does it end? You're 4 houses down Scannick Road from any detection at all. And when do we get a chance to lobby for, can you bring it in a bit? I think that's that conversation. You reached out to Dan, he's going to put you in touch with the right person.
Yeah, so we're really talking about the second step here is.
No, it's phase B connections. Yeah.
Well, once someone makes a decision that they don't want to hook up, my initial question is, who do we make the offer to? And it sounds like that the answer to that is everybody.
Yeah.
The question is, who does this letter go to? And we're going to send it out to everybody. And the cards are going to fall where they might. I mean, we already know likely one person doesn't want to hook up. And that'll be the second question. But if the answer is that we're going to send this letter out to everybody to offer them to hook up, then we have our answer for tonight, and we can move forward with that.
Right.
But I
Bids are
think
due on
the
the
next
12th.
step is to reach out to.
If they sell the house, owners, where do they stand?
Right.
Who's got to put it in the deed?
I think that's a disclosure.
And then they're still obligated now to pay for the water too under the contract, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They would be at
Right,
that point,
yeah, the new people, yeah.
Okay. So that allows us to go through the next step. It gets us information that we need in terms of when we're analyzing the bid. So that's good.
The house next door is paying now, right?
Yeah.
All right. Town meeting discussion. So this is town meeting discussion about setting the date, an early date for opening, closing, and
What time is this? We asked the town administrator to come back with a suggested calendar that we can review.
okay. Murph contract extension.
I think I discussed that. Brian's got pretty good data on it. I still would like to suggest that we kick the tires a bit and see what else is out there.
Brian's got his suggestions right here.
Okay, but I mean, same thing, I've also heard there are other places.
Oh, you got your town meeting.
Yeah.
thing. What other, but under the Murph contract, can we, do that? Isn't that a regional thing?
If we want to sign up for it, or do we want to like Selwood Company AB and they're going to offer us 150 a ton? I wonder what's out there, that's all.
That's just the recycling?
Yeah, just recycling.
But then are we gonna
Back in the day, you remember, you used to make decent money.
Yeah, are we gonna be able to bring that to the same place though, or are they gonna have to?
When I pick it up local, or they're still going to pick it up. Yeah.
That might conflict.
That's what they need, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, that sounds good. All right,
It's
a start.
Set a special for the.
4 weeks prior to town. What are we doing here? This is the previous one.
Yeah, those are my suggestions.
All right.
The schedules, and then there's a process for citizens petitions underneath. The Springtown meeting, that date is set by our general bylaws. I'm suggesting that we could fix, the board could fix through this policy that they set a date in the fall as to when there's going to be a recurring town meeting, a special town meeting. And then obviously the board can call a special town meeting, or be required to call a special town meeting anytime.
Okay, does 1 week give the Board of Registrars enough time to certify signatures?
They did this last one within 3 or 4 days.
Is there any overriding authority for citizen petition that they can bring in at any time under MGL or something, or are they bound by our closing date?
I think they're bound by our closing.
They're bound by our closing date.
They are bound by the closing date. But if you have the required numbers of signatures, they're bound by the closing date for that town meeting, right?
Right.
They could still call a special.
They could still call another.
They can do the
special town
200
meeting
route if they want.
They have the required number of signatures, yes.
Right.
I was trying to set a schedule as to.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, Brian.
Yeah, and again, we always have the opportunity to open and close for an emergency if we wanted to. To remove an article, to tweak an article, or whatever.
So if we close the warrant 4 weeks prior to town meeting, that's like April 1st.
Yeah.
I think you gotta move it, I think you gotta move it to March 1st.
8 weeks?
Yeah.
8 weeks?
Yeah. Well, the
Some of
problem,
these, you got people like okay, for instance, you heard from planning, they're gonna have 2 or 3 things. By the time they get the public hearing and stuff like that, now you're saying, well, look, we'll close, we'll allow placeholders so they can tune in.
no, yeah, what I'm saying is that what I'm saying is for the warrant articles, 8 weeks, March 1st, because they could still, this is what they want on the town meeting warrant.
Where I'm saying placeholders and they can still tune. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the
Yeah,
gap
that's
is
fair.
still there.
It's because there's time, because one of the things I hear all the time is people say, I didn't even know this was gonna be on the warrant. I got this yesterday, and you know what I mean? I'm looking at, I'll go to the town meeting and I get the warrant. I go to the town meeting and the advisory committee is in the corner making their recommendation. We don't know what.
Can we actually do 5 weeks for a citizen petition?
No, I like the idea of
Have balance closing of the warrant, though?
I think the board can set,
We could set that.
I think the board can set its own deadline.
I mean,
Well, can we do 2 steps like Don said, 8 weeks to close the warrant, 4 weeks for final language? Something like that.
Well, I noticed in Wilbraham, the way they wrote it, the Wilbraham bylaw, the procedure on this is February 1st for money articles, March 1st for non-money articles. And they don't have their town meeting until the same time we do.
Right, but they don't say button it down, they say, look, get it in.
No, they say,
And then,
no, they say, this closing date of the warrant is February 1st for money articles.
no, I got that, but I'm saying the other ones there, again, I'm saying, plan's gonna come to us with the battery storage bylaw.
Right.
And they say, look, we're gonna have that on the thing, and they tell us long beforehand, but we're having the public hearing on it, gosh, 3rd week of March. Well, that's fine, you'll have the final language, plenty of time.
Yeah,
But that's the same thing. It's already decided, it's Article 5.
It's Article
And the final
5.
language will be,
You're right.
okay,
right.
that makes sense. Especially with something like you said, the public hearing thing, just,
But what happens with now is we have, advisory has the public hearing 2 weeks before. It's just not enough time. People don't, I just don't think.
oh, I think that double thing, again, define it for, we're closing the warrants. Maybe a placeholder is there, but the final language must be within 4 weeks of the town meeting.
Right. Okay,
Because we can't be like, blah, 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 blah,
can you adjust that?
So you want that to say 8 weeks?
Yeah.
For which,
8 weeks to close.
March 1st, close. Final language, April 1st.
Oh, April 2nd.
April 2nd.
Let's not open ourselves up there, Don.
Okay, all right.
April 1st.
In Murph, we're gonna do what? What are we doing with Murph?
That's the same for.
Let me talk to Arlene and just, you ever meet her?
Yeah.
Firebrand.
Yeah, she's good at this.
I would say I would have to.
Yeah, bring her back next week, see if we just, I'm gonna pick her brain, see if there's a better money deal for us.
When do we have
Just
to
keep in
sign,
mind,
when do we have
that
to,
goes towards the enterprise fund, and we
Yeah.
can use a little extra cash there.
when do we have to sign the Murph thing?
Oh, what did they say?
Was it March? I thought you said March.
What's the name? Arlene? The deadline to sign this contract extension is December 31st, 2024.
Okay, let me reach out to her tomorrow. And then-
December 31st. Okay. All right, so that'll be the 23rd, we have to put it back on when I'm meeting the 16th.
Okay,
Municipal building improvements, so we can,
I think they all should be the same color.
is
that what you meant?
Right, the recap with that is that a group of us met and to discuss the prioritization, and we went through the assessments and that type of thing, so we're moving forward now, we're meeting again after the first of the year. Weather closing policy.
So I'd sent out, so I've been trying to find what weather closing policy is. And the only 2 things that I could find was weather closing policy from 2002, and then something that seemed more recent, a suggestion from John to the board at the time, to adopt something similar to Wilbraham. But there was nothing, there's no other documents that I could find.
Okay,
Tried to merge the Wilbraham policy with the 2002 policy.
Don may recall this because Bob took it over.
Yeah,
And I had a problem with that because it goes back to, he's not in town. And Bob is a great guy and whatever, all that, but it should be either the chair of the board, like he did this week in consultation with the highway superintendent, the police chief. Brian, I don't expect you to close the town hall from where you are, because that could be totally different from what we're seeing here.
Yeah, this,
Don may direct you, send the message out, but I think the call comes from the chair.
yeah, I don't have that this week. We consulted with highway superintendent and the police chief to get their opinions as to how the roads were. And they suggested that there'd be a delayed opening, and so Don and I communicated after that, and we decided to delay it. If we want to change that to select board chair, I don't have any concerns.
Yeah.
I'm up in the morning anyhow.
Troubling.
Do you go to bed?
I do.
Sleep right now.
I do. I'm sleeping most of the meetings.
Sleep with his eyes open and talking.
They're not.
But again, confirm that list, because I know that Becky reached out to me and she wasn't on the.
So we'll
There's a couple of people. Why don't we just change, swap select board chair with town administrator,
okay.
and we'll go forward there. Again, the idea is that we'll reach out to the highway superintendent and the chief of police.
Yeah.
Usually have the
What
best,
the road conditions are.
best ideas about the road conditions.
A yearly entertainment licenses.
So moved.
Second.
I have 3, La Casa Bella, La Cucina.
Oh, no, we asked to have the dates
Gray Horse.
confirmed from last week, or last year, yep.
Right, and we did that?
Copies are behind each one of what you approved last year.
Were there any differences?
One or two slight difference with
Is this for
hours.
this year?
Might be less.
Oh, okay, last year for Casa Bella, it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 to 10 indoors, and 6 to 8:30 outdoors on Thursdays. Weather permitting, I guess. And here they just say, effective hours, Friday, Saturdays, 4 to 10 PM indoors, so they cut the hours down. They cut the days down.
No outdoor anymore?
No outdoor.
Okay. Motion to approve Casabella.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, and for La Cucina, let's see, effective hours, Thursday, Saturday, 6 to 10, this is last year indoors. Thursday through Saturday, 7 to 9 outdoors, July and August only. Mosquito season. And they have Friday, Saturday, 7 PM to 10, which is an hour longer.
Indoor.
And indoors or on patio seasonal.
This is
So
different.
they had 7 to 9 last year,
Change of premises.
and now they want to go 7 to 10, July and August. Season.
Well, I mean, we did say it's really not a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, I know.
So it really doesn't affect anybody around there.
Okay.
So, I mean, the only problem we had with the outdoor at Casabella is because it was Colonial Village across the street, that was all.
Yeah.
10 o'clock, I don't know, I can't stay up that late, I don't care. Greg? Doesn't matter to you? Okay.
Are you going to make a motion or not?
That was Greg's turn.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, Great Horse. Great Horse last year was outdoor entertainment poolside until 9 PM. Doesn't say the time of year.
That would be the hockey man over here.
We'll skid on that pond.
Indoor entertainment 12 PM to 12 AM with doors closed. And they're requesting outdoor entertainment till 9 PM. They don't say poolside. Outdoor entertainment till 9 PM. So could it be like on the 16th tee or something? Monday through Saturday.
Extension cord.
Monday through Saturday, it's the same thing, okay. Same thing for Great Horse, as last year.
Motion approved.
All in favor? Aye, okay, thank you.
And then we got the Sunday one.
Sunday one for Great
Oh, we
Horse.
got the Sunday one. Where's the
Ours
Sunday?
is last year.
It's a funny shape, at the end there, you got a wonky end that's sideways.
Oh, yeah. This is for Great Horse live music on Sundays, 12 to 8 PM. I signed that last time. And this is the live recorded music and dancing.
That's extra, isn't it?
Dancing on a Sunday? No.
Same time?
Same time.
All right. And this is, so this one got an endorsement from the chief of police.
Yes.
Okay. Subject to that endorsement, I'll make a motion to approve.
Did we have any complaints last year?
On Sunday?
No, we didn't, there's nothing listed here. The chief has included a log, but it's
Only
for,
for La Cucina for a few.
those are La Cucinas, right? Yeah.
No report, sorry. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, gonna sign these. All right.
And that's the
now-
last of the licenses for
That's
the
the
year,
last.
right, Lauren? Okay, thank you.
Now we have a conservation restriction approval for Minnetonka Trust.
What time is it? Motion to approve. What?
What is this now?
This is just a personal one on my land. In 2013 or 14, I purchased, Charlie Ballou passed away, and I purchased his 137-acre farm and have.
On the east side of South Road going up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've gone through selling part of it, putting conservation restrictions on it, and there's a state grant called the Conservation CLTC, Conservation Land Tax Credit, so I get some money back. And so this grant really doesn't have anything to do with the town per se. It's our land, my
It's your
husband and
personal land,
myself,
right?
personal land, and the Minnetonka Land Trust holds the conservation restrictions on it. The reason that I have to come before the select board and get your signature is because conservation restrictions are permanent, and in case you wanted to have a, eminent domain and build a fire station or something, but since this land is
Are you
top of the
volunteering?
You offering?
Long way to go, but.
I don't think it would be suitable.
Okay, let me ask you this, and
Yeah,
I'm okay with it because it's your land.
yeah.
2 years from now, Ken says, you know what, I'm gonna follow the Red Sox wherever they go, and you guys move.
Then this is permanent. Whoever
That's my
buys our
point.
house,
That's my point. So maybe they say, you know what, we don't want this restriction anymore.
then they don't buy the land.
So is there any, that's my question, is
No.
there any way to remove it?
No, it would have to go before the state legislators. It
So there
can
is
be
a way,
removed,
okay.
but it's extremely difficult. So they're meant to be in perpetuity, they're attached to the deed. Whoever buys it will find the deed, find a restriction attached to the deed.
So they can't build on it or anything?
So they can't build on any, or anything. I mean, it would be very difficult to build on this land anyhow, because it's behind land that already has a conservation restriction on it. If you want to pass around this
All right,
part of
so
it that shows the map, but it's
requires
way
action.
up.
So it requires the legislature to do
It
something.
would, yes, but
It's happened, but it's rare.
yes, the point of a conservation restriction is to permanently protect land.
That's too small for me. Maybe you put it up on the screen.
All right,
It's your land.
Yeah, so that is
And it's
why,
abutting the current conservation.
yeah, so there's land right behind my house. When we first bought the house, we had 15 acres, and then we bought 8 acres next to it on the north side and put conservation restrictions on most of that. And so this is behind that. So.
They never do.
And it's connected.
They never do CRs that are timed, they're always permanent. There's never like a 15-year conservation
No,
restriction or something.
no, the whole point is to.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I mean, they don't do it on all land. It has to have environmental significance, so this makes a huge wildlife corridor.
Right. Refresh my memory, which is the one that has the current restriction? This is B at the top?
So, yeah, so if you look to, there's restrictions to the right of it. I don't own that land. Well, actually, I do own that land now, but I don't tend to own it for long. So the part that's grayed out has restrictions on it, and it's not grayed out, but to the left of it, most of that land also has restrictions on it, with the exception of a small area around my house.
Okay.
I take that back. You own it, but you don't plan on owning it for long?
Yeah, I mean,
Which parcel?
it's an 88-acre parcel that,
Is it D on the map here?
I have to get my glasses, but I don't have them with me, so.
So D has the restriction on it?
Yeah, they already have restrictions on it,
So
which you signed off on.
Well, I got
4
it,
years
but I'm
ago,
just
or 6
saying, this
years
gets
ago.
back to my point.
Yeah.
You don't plan, honestly, who's gonna want it?
No, it would be very, it turns out that land that is the most important for conservation and is the least important for building and development.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
steep slopes.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, you
wetlands
say you
and all
don't
that
hope
kind
to own it for long, but I'm like,
Well,
who's gonna wanna buy it?
Well, it would be connected to some frontage lots. I still own some frontage on South Road, so
they
this
might
would
be able
be
to use it
behind
as a
that.
PERD or a type, as an
Yeah.
offset.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah, so somebody who wanted to have a lot, there are people out there who want to have lots of land, who want to ride their horse or whatever, who want to go hunting. So for,
They can still hunt on the land and stuff?
yes, hunting is allowed.
All right. We have a motion.
Good.
Motion to approve the conservation restriction as requested.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What am I signing?
Back your way.
Sherry, this is smart. Come at almost 8 o'clock. It works a lot better. If you come at 6.
You're never gonna get it.
Yeah, we would have had pictures. We would have been looking at, Craig could have it drone up, looking over the property.
Do we have something to sign?
Yeah, there's a signature page, and then I don't mean to babble at you, but this is a painful process to go through the state and get it approved, and we submitted this application in April. There's a deadline, or I lose out my money by December 31st, and they finally approved it. It has to go back, they made corrections. We approved the corrections, then it has to get signed. So I'm hoping that tonight's signature will be good. Sometimes they'll do something like, they'll say, no, you can't sign it first, the Secretary of the Environment signs it. So I may have to come back and get a new signature like in a week or two, I don't know.
You got the 23rd, and that's it.
The 23rd, and that's it, okay.
Right.
So
This year.
hopefully, I might need a new one, just to, if they might accept tonight's signature. I'm just trying to get everything done, because after I get all the signatures, I've got to go down to the Registry of Deeds and record it.
Copy.
So it's, time is. it's a little-
Lauren, there's only one here to sign?
Only one copy, right?
More than one?
No. I can just photocopy.
I don't want to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyhow, but please keep it short. Are we anywhere on North Road?
Oh, what do you mean? Yes, we
Yes.
bought the land.
Okay.
And we will be back at the May meeting to,
Do the money part?
the money's been approved to just, to vote. So, yeah, we bought the land, and
And you did flip,
I don't think
right?
you,
we're in the process of that. It's with the lawyer.
The house is
Mary
on the
Dillon.
right and the parking's on the left now?
right, you don't need
What I
that.
heard?
No, we went back to the original.
Oh, you did, great, that's even better, okay. I
Pass that down there.
Anyways.
Yeah, we went back to the original plan because I
Okay,
didn't want to have to come back
No,
and
that's
do a
great.
whole new thing.
No, I'm much happier with the parking on the right, that sounds
So
good.
we went right back to the original. So it's all the same as it was. We just considered that because we felt we should consider it, and a lot of people said to us, why don't we do it this way? So we toyed with it, but we ended up.
Put that toy away, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
All right, thank you.
So Wednesday, we have a planning board meeting. There is one public hearing, so there will be a Zoom session. And Brian, do we have one of our 12 Zoom operators set up, or
Lauren says yes.
Lauren's doing it?
No, Lauren says you have somebody lined up.
We have some.
Okay, all right, great.
What's the
one-
hearing on?
Minor thing, I think, say accessory building, yeah. We had a meeting of the Senior Center Building Committee today, and really, they're looking for direction. Obviously, as you know, Gary and John attended your meeting last week, for the select board meeting, talk about municipal buildings as a whole, but they're really looking for, do you want us in? Are we still, we're still getting paid? No, I'm kidding. Is there still a need for us? My opinion, well, the need hasn't gone away. It's how we accomplish the goal is really the question. The work they've done analyzing the goals and stuff like that and the needs is good stuff. It is, no different than the fire department, needs and stuff like that. They're looking for direction from the select board as to their role going forward. Do they keep refining it? Do they keep looking for different funding sources? Do they try and, I said, look, anything you do for funding is obviously going to be good for your cause.
Well, we know the town has spoken, in returns to the,
Once,
twice.
First time, they got 65%. I mean, it was a majority, but the second time, it was an overwhelming minority.
It didn't
right?
pass.
I understand that. I'm just saying, people are saying, whichever. So, but the bottom line is, last time it only got 38%. For whatever reason, you can money more toward that, whatever, it failed.
Right.
Right. They're looking for what does the select board want us to do going forward.
Okay, and this is part of that discussion with all the municipal buildings.
Understand that, but they want to know, is there still a committee? I would say it is until we tell them no.
Right.
Right.
They can continue.
There's no need to meet every week.
No, they don't have to meet every week. Sir?
Still trying to understand if is there a need for the committee still? I mean, it's not on the topic for discussion tonight, so it's really kind of a moot point, so.
I think there's a need for it, because, they're talking about they want to do more fundraising. They've got a couple of people, and I think you know this, Mrs. Mellion, who has done a lot of fundraising, I think that's what, one of the things they heard, was that, can we get more funding? Is the state out there? Look, go back out there. No different than sharpening a pencil. You come back in, and
I think that if there's still a active committee, I just don't think there's any direction from the board at this time for them to take a charge.
do you think the original charge was to look at what's needed for the senior center for the next 25 years?
Right, and then we had revised that for just immediate needs.
We didn't revise that for immediate needs.
We told them to simplify the project. Right.
Simplify it, like cut it down, but the 25-year thing is still there. We're not going to simplify it and then go back in 5 years and put another door on.
My point is.
I think the point, excuse me, Drake, I think the point that they missed, and that I think a lot of people at the town meeting was, they don't believe that they need, that need that they keep talking about, which is storage space and foot care, translates to $6 million. I think they do believe if you need a new roof, we could do a new roof, but they keep saying, we do these programs, which they're doing, and we need room for blood pressure and foot care and storage, and people just can't wrap their head around $6 million when they think there's other options.
The message didn't get articulated correctly.
They didn't say, look, we want to have this new program, that we think is gonna bring in 50 people or 40 people or something, or the state is mandating that we do, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess my point was, we gave them a direction, we revised the direction, it didn't pass. Currently, there's no direction from the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board.
Right.
So we'll go back to my original question then, are you telling them to disband or not?
Well, I say if they want to still search for funding and get together, and, the building still needs, like Don was saying, a roof, maybe there's other things that they can do as a committee at the moment without looking for a renovation project.
Understand, are they a committee or not? Are they still our committee?
Yes.
I would still, they're still a committee, but I would say we don't have a charge for them at the moment because.
Well, then I would invite Gary to come in and look for direction from the board at some point in the future, maybe after the first.
After the first.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, he'll still be involved in the general thing about.
The other thing.
Right, exactly, yeah. All right.
Brian? Or do you have something?
Yep, water bids are due Thursday.
I'll jump in after.
Water bids are due Thursday. The ambulance has been sold and transferred to the Palmer Fire District as of earlier this week. Website, so 2 items, there's going to be MV made as part of the grant. That production those filming around town is going to be December 16th and 17th. And there will be times in January, from January 14th to the 16th, that for the new website, people who are going to be site administrators, there'll be trainings for those individuals. And then there'll also be individual trainings for people who we anticipate will need to learn how to use the website, but on a much reduced scale, posting agendas and minutes and things like that. So that'll come out in January. Website should roll out sometime, the new website should roll out sometime in February. And there was an email sent to the board and myself for a school budget meeting on the January 28th. Is that something that everybody can do? Or is that something we should respond favorably to?
That's what we use, the annual thing, really.
Yeah, it's the annual
Like,
thing.
I like your response, you know, like, if we just watch the video from the last 5 years.
Sometimes we Zoom.
So should I respond yes?
Yes.
We're eager.
When was that again?
28th.
January 28th.
Eager, Brian, make sure you express how eager we are.
January 28th. I can send a frowny face with it.
Just an emoji.
28th, yeah. So I'll respond
Oh,
yes.
no, Brian, no, exclamation marks. We know how much we like those.
Those get quite strange sometimes when it's not so great news and there's like, but anyways, sorry.
Anything else to come before the board?
Yes.
Yeah,
Fire station building committee met 2 weeks ago, met with the architect. They reviewed the Tecton and the Mitchell reports and all the assessments that were done with the community. We kind of gave them a little bit of a direction and said, hey, you know, we felt some of the other plans were, there was no happy medium middle ground anywhere. So we gave them the option to look at remodeling 19 North Road. And then I said, just for fun, what would it cost to put in a new building, you know, as a secondary? You know, if land wasn't a question, you know, what would it just cost for comparison's sake, a new building versus a remodel?
So part of the thing, I know I mentioned before, I remember this a few months ago, I was talking about, you know, if we were just talking about expanding, I said, why don't we take down the building, the part to the right, build 2 bigger bays there. Those would be the larger apparatus. Now, because Don's concern when he back to the OSHA thing is about the separation in the aisles. So now in the middle 2 bays, you use the smaller apparatus, the brush truck, et cetera, and build 2 bigger bays that give you the OSHA separation for the tanker and engine 1.
I think that was Ed's kind of idea originally, was to come off with 2 bays off to the right.
So is that the direction we're going now?
Well, we gave them the ideas, and they're gonna see what fits within the model, the blueprint, obviously making sure everything's up to code, legal, stuff like that.
Well, the biggest thing, you know, we talk about why this is going so slow. Honestly, ambulance held it back. It really did.
Speaking of ambulance, I had inquired if Action would be interested in storing within the town's buildings rather than renting a building. And I believe Brian had said, the email saying that they would be open to discussions. So maybe that could save on some
So
of
that's the use for this building? They're gonna park the ambulance here?
here. Yeah. It's just all options on the table to see, you know, if we can eliminate a cost funding for them there, does it help us health-wise? And then you're putting, you know, your first responders together in a building.
It was a design for a garage at one point that I came across. Build that.
Anything else to come before the board?
I do want to thank the staff for great tree lighting this last weekend. Lauren, Jane, Craig, you know, I think it was a pretty darn good job. And looking forward to a great holiday season, if that's the correct way to say it, Mr. Chair.
I believe Christmas is appropriate.
Well, Merry Christmas to all of you coming up.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
And with that, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You too, Craig.
Out of here.
I'm sorry, Ted, do you have something else?
We're leaving the tax rate.
How's that stipend looking? Good?
I was more confused afterwards than before.
I think you heard the budget's bad, I'm sorry.
15, 23 or something like that?
Yeah, the tax rate dropped.
Senior center.
Where is it?
The budget's bad.
Tax rate goes down.
That's because valuation's up. Yeah.
It's a, whatever that thing's called.
Pendulum?
Pivot thing.
Oh, yeah, fulcrum, whatever.
Right, so,
Simple machine.
so, I mean, that's how much we're saying we're gonna raise.
As a stop.
That's the difference. This is our tax. That's how much we need to raise based on adding $1.1 million
Online, these are just a couple of
of the water project onto the tax levy, but we take 650 off of that because that's coming from stabilization.